Welcome to California. You've heard of Los Angeles, you've heard of San Francisco, but unless you live here, you may have never heard of Sacramento. And so consequently, a lot of people don't know that Sacramento is the California state capital. And look at that, there's our beautiful state capitol building. They started construction on that in 1860 and completed it in 1874, although it looks like it's not completely complete. Looks like they're using all those crazy California taxes I paid to expand the building now. Well, glad to know all that money I pay goes to something good. Anyway, I woke up this morning in Sacramento. I've been wandering the Capitol grounds for a little while now. There's actually a big, massive protest going on outside today, some kind of union thing. There's a serious amount of people over there in purple SEIU shirts, I can tell you that much. That's not why I'm roaming around here this morning. I am on my way up north from Southern California, and since I had to come through Sacramento anyways, why not have my morning coffee here in front of the state capitol and then head to one of the coolest places in the entire state that, again, unless you grew up in California or have spent a lot of time in Sacramento for some reason, most people have never heard of. I'm talking about Old Sacramento. Starting in the 1840s, really during the gold rush in California, Sacramento quickly became the hub of all things gold rush. Located right on the confluence, the meeting of the American and Sacramento rivers, this became the stopping point for all those gold rush immigrants who came through San Francisco up the rivers and stopped here before heading off into the foothills and the mountains to seek their fortunes. And quickly, it wasn't just about the rivers. Sacramento became a major railroad hub, being one of the groundbreaking sites for and the end of the line of the original transcontinental railroad. This was the stopping place to come from the East Coast to the West Coast. And although San Francisco always remained sort of the fancier town, and therefore the town a lot of business people decided to put their headquarters at and make their primary residence at, when it came to the actual business of the gold rush, Sacramento was the hub. So for example, Wells Fargo may have had their headquarters on Montgomery Street in San Francisco, but arguably their most important office was here because this was the first stopping point on the way back down from the mountains and foothills for the 49ers to deposit their gold dust. And today, Old Sacramento is a state historic park, so there's lots of museums down here. You see lots of field trippers, lots of little candy shops and cute touristy stuff, and most importantly for me, a whole lot of history. Like, look at this. Here's one of the offices for the Sacramento Daily Union, a very important early California newspaper. In fact, the very newspaper that paid Mark Twain not only to go to the Hawaiian Islands, but eventually to the Holy Land and Europe, resulting in his first books. And so Mark Twain was a frequent visitor right down here to Old Sacramento. And then speaking of Wells Fargo, it was out of this building right here on this corner, the B.F. Hastings building, that Wells Fargo operated their sort of central hub for this part of California. And upstairs in the offices, their famous detective, the Sherlock Holmes of California, or of the Old West, James B. Hume, worked on some of his most famous cases, including trying to track down the infamous Black Bart. It was also, perhaps even more famously, before the railroad, the starting and ending point of the Pony Express. Before the railroads, that massive, long relay race of horse riders from Missouri all the way here to Sacramento, and specifically to this corner right here, was the fastest, most reliable way of getting news cross-country, at least until the telegraph came. And as you can imagine, Sacramento was one of the most important telegraph terminuses as well. As you guys know, I'm fascinated by Mark Twain. I'm also fascinated by James B. Hume, the Wells Fargo detective that worked out of this building. Fascinated by the Pony Express and the Old West and the Gold Rush generally. So even though I'm actually on my way up and out of California, I am stoked to stop in Old Sacramento because history happened here. And check this out. This building is now the Sacramento Visitor Center. So we're about to step inside a building that Mark Twain, James Hume, and all the other famous Gold Rush characters would have been intimately familiar with. All right, that is neat. They've got a little bit of historical information there. A very friendly guy who knows all about the history of Old Sacramento. You can find a lot of information. Unfortunately, the museum part of it that I remembered was a Wells Fargo museum, and after all the riots in 2020, they shut down all of their museums, including the main one at their headquarters in San Francisco, which they're selling. And so behind those papered up windows right there, supposedly, Wells Fargo still got a whole bunch of artifacts and ephemera back there, but we can't see it today. By the way, apparently it was just across 2nd Street that Wells Fargo had their first ever location, but it burned down in one of the early fires down here when this whole town was wood. Classic Old West situation, right? But with all the money coming in from the gold rush, the whole place was quickly rebuilt in fireproof brick and stone. And in fact, Sacramento was so important and so rich back in the day that the entire town, all of this was raised up like entire stories in the 1860s and 70s because hydraulic mining and dredging upstream meant that there was a lot of flooding down here when the town was at river level. Even though, like I mentioned, there was a lot of fires in the early days, a lot of reconstruction, there are plenty of buildings still down here from the 1850s, the early years of the gold rush, not to mention the 1860s and 70s. And although mostly, like I was saying, today you're going to encounter a lot of touristy shops and restaurants, if you dig into gold rush history and familiarize yourself with all those old-timey stories, you are almost guaranteed to find a building down here that one of those legendary Old West characters actually walked around in. All right, let me try my luck here. I don't want to brag, but I'm a crack shot. Ooh, look at this. Next door there's an art gallery with a very scary Pierre out here petting a very scary cat. All right, he wasn't here during the gold rush. But then again, neither was Round Table Pizza. And as for the fortune teller, unclear. Who knows what kind of powers they have. All right, speaking of buildings from the 1850s, we have got a survivor right here. This is the Lady Adams building, built in 1852 by the Lady Adams Mercantile Company, which in turn was named after the boat that brought the proprietors around the Horn to California. That building has survived fires and floods. It's one of the buildings that was jacked up to new heights. Today, I believe that building and the big tall white one next door both house Evangeline's costume mansions, a big costume store here for Sacramento. And look at this, as you can see, they have got really good stuff in here, some really fancy stuff going up 2 floors. Not to mention Evangeline's ground floors, all kinds of gifts and novelties and magic tricks and fancy pajama pants. I'm just looking at this pirate outfit outside thinking, I need to buy this and wear this on Spike's Breezeway cocktail hour of Breezeway Tiki. You know what I'm talking about, my friend Spike's Tiki show. Classically, costume shops are not all that camera friendly. Probably to stop people from coming in and just trying on the costumes and taking a whole bunch of selfies, but I just love entering buildings like this because you're walking in an old historic Old West Gold Rush era building with the creaking staircases and the ghosts, the evidences of the old earthquakes. Okay, they've adapted. They've gotten much more camera friendly over the years. Lots of signs up here like tag us, as you can see. Very extensive costume shop. All divided up by theme. I like that. Look at the shrunken head in here, the jungle room. Lots of creepy stuff in here, I'll tell you that much. Hey, do ninjas belong in the jungle? Oh my goth, it is crammed with amazing stuff. One of the ladies I was talking to in here used to live next door to a serial killer back in the day, so there's some kind of scavenger hunt related to that. Spooky. Oh wow, just look at the size of that mask wall. And this is just one room. Look at the Renaissance room over here. Lots of pirate stuff, pirate boots, pirate hats, everything. Even Roman and Greek stuff. This ain't no Spirit Halloween. Look at that. They've even got breeches. I could use a good pirate outfit. Ooh, I had to escape or the whole video just would have been a costume shop. Anyway, there are many amazing stores down here, including some with a Disney connection we'll see in just a little bit. But as I mentioned, Old Sac has been a state historic park since 1965. Just walking around for an hour or two, there's a lot to see, a lot to absorb. If you keep your eyes peeled, there's a whole bunch of little plaques, like this is talking about the Booth Company, the wholesale grocery business here, owned by Newton Booth, who was actually at one time a California state senator and then later governor, and lived in the building while he was governor. So at one time, the Booth building here was the governor's mansion. Think of that. Behind me, if you're here on the weekends or the summer, you've got the railroad depot, and there are train rides. And across the tracks, on the wrong side of the tracks, you have the old wharf, the old river landing, where apparently the Pony Express even had their own steamer to take the mail to San Francisco. When you think of steamers and steamboats and riverboats, you tend to think of like the Mississippi River or the East Coast, or like the Erie Canal. After all, the rivers and canals were America's first highways. You don't tend to think of California, but it was the same thing here. Steamboats and even sailboats would come up the American River, Sacramento River, the Yuba, the Feather. But as I alluded to earlier, upstream, after the easy gold was gone, they started to dredge the rivers and streams of the foothills and mountains of California, which caused all the rivers up here to silt up like in an extreme way. You know, raising the level of the riverbed, which meant boats couldn't get through, and also meant there was crazy flooding all the time. That's why whole old gold rush downtowns like Yuba City or Marysville are just basically gone. There's only a little bit left. Sometimes entire towns were washed away by the flooding. Here in Sacramento, like I mentioned, they just jacked the buildings up and raised the level of the streets. They raised up ground level, and as you can see, the river is pretty far down below us nowadays. And this thing that we're looking at, the Delta King, is one of two old stern-wheeler paddle boats. The Delta King is sitting out here now, and the Delta Queen that has since been removed, that were actually built in the 1920s in Scotland, of all places. And nowadays, the Delta King has got a restaurant on it. It's a hotel. You can actually stay there. Even in the 1920s, they were very popular for taking excursions between Sacramento and San Francisco. But after they built things like the Oakland Bay Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge and all the other bridges in California, they were just sort of impractical. Even though these boats were built in the 1920s, there is a Mark Twain connection. First of all, the Delta Queen was eventually relocated to the Mississippi River, where Mark Twain was a riverboat pilot, but also just after World War II, in which, by the way, both of those boats were used as troop transports and hospital ships here in California. They were featured in the beginning of that classic movie, The Adventures of Mark Twain, which mostly used miniature steamboats, but at the very, very beginning, there's some shots of a giant steamboat from behind. That's this bad boy right here, the Delta King. And they were supposedly also used in the 1960 film, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Pretty awesome. Now, see, if I had thought ahead and had more time, I should have stayed on the Delta King over here. But actually, like I mentioned, I'm going up and out of California today. And although Sacramento is a long way up from Los Angeles and Orange County, where I'm from, about 7 hours I drove last night, and is considered Northern California, it is nowhere near the top of the state. I still got a long way to go. But before I take off, there's still a lot more to see. Now, I kept mentioning trains earlier, and there's a very good reason. There's one group of people who is very familiar with Old Sacramento, even if they've never been here, and that is railroad enthusiasts, because Old Sacramento is home to one of the biggest and best railroad museums in the country, the California State Railroad Museum, which honestly is so big and extensive and impressive, it deserves a video all of its own, which is the reason that although I've been here several times over the past couple of years, I've never filmed in here. I keep waiting until I have a whole day and I'm not just passing through. Still undecided whether I dip in at the moment, but there's another place next door I've never been into, kind of for the same reason that come heck or high water, I am going to enter today. Right next door to the California State Railroad Museum is this, the Sacramento History Museum, that I have never been inside. You can already see the panning for gold out here, and the museum is open, so it looks like today is my lucky day. Oh my gosh, would you look at the size of this? It's bigger on the inside. I love this steamboat wheel right here, and then gold, greed, and speculation. The beginnings of Sacramento City. Started as a river city, like I said, then quickly became a railroad city. And look at this. Look at the print shop in here. You see this guy right here, Howard? He is always on Instagram and TikTok doing little print jobs in the print shop, and because I knew about it already, I got a little free print in here, printed by none other than Howard himself, who I was hoping would be in here, but you know, oh well, at least I got the little free print. That's sick. It's funny that I've followed the museum online forever and supported them, and yet this is my first time ever coming in here. Ooh, I already see a picture of the number one homie, Mark Twain. All right, well, here's a case of you need to come to places like this to learn things you have never learned before, never even thought of before. I did not know that the Campbell's Soup Company apparently had a massive base in Sacramento, like a massive food processing facility, and that tons and tons of Campbell's Soup stuff was actually manufactured right here in the Golden State. You know what? I've never even thought about where Campbell's Soup ever came from, other than just being in the grocery store, and I've never thought about them having all these collectibles. Weird. And speaking of weird, look at this staircase going up. Strange. California is a big agricultural state, even still to this day. Something I don't really think about because I drive through that part of California as fast as I possibly can. But if you're interested in agriculture, apparently there's a lot here for you. This is the exhibit name right here, Sacramento in a Can. Apparently there's a lot of canned food companies up in California. I guess that makes sense. You know, Monterey, California, Cannery Row with canned fish. We had canned everything, apparently. Like, look at this. You got Del Monte, California beans. I'm more looking for the gold rush history than I am the history of how we fed soldiers in World War II with canned foods. There is a lot of information about that. This is cool. Look at this fancy coach over here and these fancy outfits for going to the opera in the 19th century in Sacramento. It's also interesting to see that there's a lot of information about the Native Americans as well as the Chinese and other immigrants from all over the world coming here for the gold rush. Look at this, there's a ballot box right there. Here's an old leg shackle. Guess the sheriff would have used that. Oh, and here's old Isaiah Dunlap right there. He was a barber and also voting rights activist back in the day. People forget there were a lot of freedmen and African Americans involved in the gold rush and all the various businesses supporting it as well. Pretty interesting stuff. Ah, here we go. We got the Miwok Indians over here, the original natives of the area. This is something interesting. California used to be covered by a lot more water, rivers and lakes, before we drained it all away for cities or dammed it up. And a lot of the Native Americans would use these tool boats. This is obviously a smaller version. I mean, that's a boat for ants. But basically boats just like that, built out of freaking reeds. Moses style. I like it. Very, very cool seeing the Native American stuff up here. There were a lot of Native Americans involved in the gold rush in all different capacities. Everything from miners to shopkeepers to doing raids to living traditionally on mining sites. Pretty cool. This is amazing, dude. This is a cannon right here, originally believed to be one of John Sutter's cannons at his fort. Sutter was the guy having the sawmill built up in the mountains where gold was first discovered in California, or at least in a big way. Look at this. Here's some miner's tools right there. A bullet mold, an old pistol. Man, this is awesome. Look at this here, right here. It's a portrait of a Chinese man from the gold rush era, 1851, and an anonymous European miner right here. Here's some of the mining going on the American River back in the day. Look at that. I mean, they dug everything up. All right. Let's go over here. The lure of gold. I think this is what I'm looking for. Here we got a miner 49ers cabin. There it is. That's Sutter's Mill right there. The old sawmill they were building, and they were deepening the channel to get more water in. Members of the old Mormon battalion who were working for John Sutter, and they're the ones that found the gold. A lot of information on the old pioneers. Tons of historic artifacts, which I think is really cool. And as I was hoping for, and as you might expect, a lot of information on the various types of mining up here, including the hydraulic mining. That was shooting water out of these pressurized hoses and cannons to just tear away whole hillsides. Big part of why we don't have navigable rivers in California today. Got information on placer mining, on hard rock mining. Got the old mine shaft here. This is very, very cool, although it's making me a little bit dizzy. Okay. A giant chunk of the museum at the moment is kind of dedicated to the growing and to the old cannery business and Campbell's in particular. Look at that. Here's a map of Sacramento's canning empire. So if you're specifically interested just in gold rush history, I'd wait till they have a specific gold rush exhibit. Still, there's a lot of fascinating stuff in here. All right, I'm going back down those crazy, crooked mall-looking stairs. Look at that. Looks like an old 1980s mall food court stairway. Scary. Cut my museum visit a little bit short, but only because we have got a store to see. And no, I'm not talking about the museum store. That's a nice little shop. But for those of you who know me, you know I do a lot of history videos in Disney parks. And although it may surprise you, it certainly surprises me, there is a store here that goes full Disney. So I'm walking back to the other side of Old Sacramento to check it out. It is interesting to see all these like stone and concrete foundations over here along the actual riverside, and to think about how many old wooden ships and sailing ships and steamboats used to dock here or were sunk here. I mean, this used to be the lifeblood of the town. Now it's all government stuff, right? That's Sacramento's main industry. It's funny to think that at one time the name Sacramento was synonymous with adventure and trains and riverboats and starting out with just a pick and a shovel and maybe making your fortune. Now if you live in California, it's almost like a bad word, like, Sacramento, putting their hands in our pockets, that kind of thing. I mean, just ask those protesters from this morning, right? Just ask them what they think of Sacramento. But at one time, man, this was the hub of the great American adventure. I mean, it's absolutely astounding when you stop and think of all those guys that spent weeks and months alone up in the mountains, searching and searching for just a little glint of gold, saving up a little sack of powder and gold dust, or if they were lucky, a couple of gold nuggets, and they'd come down here to Sacramento, maybe feast on oysters brought up the river by riverboat, or a steak, find some temporary company for the evening, rub shoulders with some of the biggest legends in American history, people like Mark Twain, James B. Hume. Absolutely mind-blowing. Anyway, this is the building we are headed to right now, and this is the store, the Stage 9 Entertainment Store. Well, I'm willing to be entertained. Are you? Dude, prepare to have your mind blown. There's so much Disney stuff in here, and the owner has all these connections to Disney people, Imagineers, celebrities. Oh, look at this. Look at this right here. Tiki Week is coming up. with the art of Mark Davis and some other Disney artists. And oh my goodness, looks like they even have Roosevelt shirts in here. That's handy. First time I ever saw this place, I was so confused. Like, what is all this Disney stuff doing in Old Sacramento? I came here because, of course, my little wifey, Allie, is from Yuba City, not far from Sacramento, about an hour north. I'm walking around thinking about the gold rush and old trains and museums. Then we show up to this store and I'm like, what the heck? Dude, look at the size of this place. Now, when I was dating Allie, 10 years ago, I'd come through Old Sac and it was nowhere near this big. But Stage 9 has just been growing and growing and growing ever since the owner, Troy Carlson, started this little tiny, like 600 square foot store, like generic gift shop, way back in the early 1990s. But being a big Disneyland fan, and obviously fan of pop culture generally, not only has the store been very successful and been growing in size and scale and types of merchandise, but as it's grown, it's been more and more elaborately themed. Hey, there's Sam Clemens right up there. And the Disney parks influence has really been showing. First of all, as you walk around the parts of the store, they're just full of sort of generic merchandise. Look up and you'll see all kinds of pieces of Disney memorabilia and history up here in these frames. But that's not even the tip of the iceberg, because it gets better and better and better. It was nowhere near this big even 10 years ago. Like I was saying, when Allie and I used to come in here, it was basically just this front part of the store. And then in here, you sort of had the Disney vault that had a lot of Disney fine art on the walls. Not just Disney, lots of other stuff as well. But basically this corner right back here had all these amazing pieces of Disney memorabilia and artwork that you would normally only see like in the Disney parks, right? In like the fancy Disneyana gallery. Look at this. All kinds of Disney collectibles right here on the wall. Everything from souvenirs from the parks to things used in the parks. There's your free entry for life, main gate gold pass, old Disneyland tickets and props. It's amazing. This alone was enough to blow my mind 10 years ago. I'm going, what the heck? Why is there all this Disney stuff in Old Sacramento? But like everything else, the vault has grown too. It's not just the vault now. Now it's become the underground vault, and they have added a spiral staircase down into the old original first floor. Like I said, Old Sacramento used to be underground, and down there in the underground vault is easily the craziest secret of Sacramento now, period. Much less Old Sac. But before we get there, look at this. Gee willikers, they have expanded quite a bit. Before we go down there, look at this. Gee willikers, have they expanded. Literally knocking a hole through the back of the building to connect it to the other side. And that side over there is literally known as Gee Willikers. You go through Stage 9, through the candy shop, into Gee Willikers toy shop. Dude, and what a toy shop. Look at this. There are model trains running around everywhere. Look at the size of this mountain here with this lava flow and dinosaurs and caves. It's the LGB Mountain Express. Look at these little shacks over here. There are crystals, little buildings, and look, a very useful tank engine cruising around the bend. And look at this. Look at the Gee Willikers Rootin' Tootin' Shootin' Gallery. Hey, that bear looks sort of familiar back here. Dude, look at this amazing little Coney Island shootout over here. You got the old metal targets with the old BBs in them. Then you have the electric targets over here. This is amazing. When I first started coming to Old Sacramento as a kid with my family, about 6, 7 years old, so maybe 89, 1990. There was nothing like this up here. You were lucky if they had one of those little stores where you get a bag of rocks. Much less gigantic 2-alley tall robots and video games and electric signs and Ninja Turtles. Hey, look, they still have the bag of rocks. They got freaking dinosaurs in here eating rubber chickens. And then once again, look at the theming over here. You got the cottages, you got the castle. Whew, speaking of rubber chickens, look at the size of this guy, and I got big hands. That is amazing, dude. It's all connected now through the candy store in here. All of this is awesome. I didn't even see this before. Look in this room up here. Look at all the tiki paraphernalia, old books. There's even a little haunted mansion, Nightmare Before Christmas wreath. Like I said, there's enough to see up here. Freaking Phantom of the Opera chandelier. But the real secrets, the real mind blowers are underground. So we're going in to the underground vault. Now prepare your brain. The underground vault is amazing. There's cool stuff in there, but can you hear that construction? There's an even bigger secret coming to the underground vault, the vault within a vault. And we'll get there. But first, just check out what's open to the public right now, all the time. First you come down the spiral staircase past Walt Disney's signature and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. But if you continue all the way down, you eventually get to this. The underground vault. There's so much mind-blowing stuff in here. That is an original stained glass window from Cinderella Castle at Disney World. That is an original 1955 Main Street, USA park bench. Walt Disney himself probably sat his rump on that thing. There's an original instrument case from the Firehouse 5 at Disneyland. There's an original A1 audio animatronic, Pirates, Haunted Mansion. Just a Snow White Scary Adventures ride vehicle casually chilling underneath the stairway. Walt Disney's personal microphone shield from his speech for the 10th anniversary, the 10th. Oh, and there's a button you can push and hear Walt's speech.
I can go back beyond 10 years on this deal.
So I was looking at this, right?
I remember a few little things that went on before the opening.
And look at all this. There are signs from the park, placemats from the early days of the park, ashtrays, plates even, souvenirs of every size, shape, and description. Walt Disney's Tinkerbells. I've never seen that one before. My favorite Disneyland souvenir of all time, or I should say my favorite souvenirs. You got the Disneyland wood burning set, and the big game safari picture gun that you know every kid used to pretend they were shooting the animals on the Jungle Cruise. They don't make them like they used to. Those are two Disneyland collectibles I do not have and wish that I did have. I've been looking. It looks so casual, right? It's an art gallery, a lot of fancy pieces of fine art, particularly Disney fine art all over the wall. Really fancy collectible teacups over here. And these are those redwood carvings you sometimes see in the Disney auto shop that are very, very pricey and rare. And yet look how many are here. Speaking of Disneyland, this right here, this mirror transom, that is actually from the Riverbell Terrace on the River of America. And over here, look at this. Not only do you have another one of those redwood carvings right yonder, but you've got a basket from the Jungle Cruise. I almost said book. I almost always say book. A sign from one of the top of the Jungle Cruise boats. You've got some stuff from the Pirates of the Caribbean. You've got the trunk of the little squirt, the little elephant that used to stand in front of Trader Sam at the end of the Jungle Cruise. My mind is blown right now. And then look at these lights. These lights right here are from Disneyland. This one is from Wilderness Lodge, actually, Disney World, sorry. We've even got a railroad tie plate from the Disneyland Railroad. Dude, so many artifacts from the parks hiding underground in Sacramento. And then some absolutely amazing artwork from Disney Fine Art, including art from my friend Tony Baxter over here. I've got this print hanging in my bathroom. Oh my gosh, look at these little backstage signs over here. Look at this, Tony Baxter signed this. A lantern from the Disneyland Railroad. This is original Club 33 table and chairs that it's all sitting on right here. What's up with the sewing machine? This is one of the hat sewing machines from Disney World from back in the 70s to embroider your name on your Mickey ears. Look at this, you got all kinds of pieces from the Tiki Room. You got cast member uniforms and props and pieces of the actual animals from the Jungle Cruise. Oh, and I love seeing the actual vintage stuff. The stuff from the 50s and the 60s, the ashtrays, the plates, the souvenirs. Look at the little mini forks. I want some Disneyland mini forks. Bonus points if you can tell me where this original Disney trash can is from. And then here's something I have not seen for a long time. This was in the Aloha OA auction for Oceanic Arts. A piece of Leroy Schmaltz Tiki history. Now all this is amazing. All of this is amazing. The underground vault will blow your mind. But something else is happening down here. Because as they've been expanding the store, Troy needed a little more space in the underground vault. And the story goes that when they went to knock out a piece of this wall, they discovered something absolutely incredible. Behind this doorway, back here, in this back corner of the underground vault, they discovered a secret lair. The hideout of an explorer named Hawthorne. And as you can see right here, HH, this is Hawthorne's hideout. It does not officially open until that Tiki weekend I showed you the sign for upstairs. After that, it'll be for private events or for rentals. But what's behind this door right here is the biggest secret in Sacramento. And you have to know the secrets to get in, because if you just open that door, all you're gonna see is a brick wall. But if you're invited inside, like we are, to take a sneak peek, what you will see will blow your mind forever. Okay, here we go. Into the hideout of the explorer, Elias Hawthorne. And look at that. The brick wall is closing once again, and we are inside of Hawthorne's hideout. The biggest secret, or the biggest little secret, I should say, in Sacramento. And you guys, this is incredible. I have to give a big shout out to Troy and the team here at Stage 9 for letting us in. This is not even open to the public yet. Almost no one has seen this except for a few Imagineers, extra VIP guests. In fact, earlier when I was in here, they were still doing construction. They're still working on it right now. This is Elias Hawthorne himself, an explorer who lived from the 1800s into the 1950s. And when they knocked that hole in the wall, they uncovered this, Hawthorne's Hideout, the coolest private bar I have ever seen in my whole life. This is amazing. I'm a little spooked out being left underground in Old Sacramento by myself, but my spooked out is being counteracted by my wonder. I cannot keep my mouth closed. I'm so excited. Look at this incredible hideout. Look at the beams up here, the lanterns, the lighting, the incredible brickwork. And this old doorway here, this tunnel leads under the streets of Old Sacramento. We are actually underground in the old gold rush part of the city, and as you can see, look at this. Hawthorne has filled this place with all kinds of souvenirs and mementos from his travels. And just coming in from the front door, you can see even the chairs are all unique. There's chairs from aircrafts and hot rods. That's an old ski lift right there. Look at the antique phone on the wall. What secrets will that uncover? There's mining gear, climbing gear, exploring gear, and so many pieces of movie and Disney memorabilia in here. It will blow your ever-loving mind. Look at the ceiling right here. Very Burning Town, Pirates of the Caribbean. You got prayer flags from Nepal. Reminds you of Expedition Everest a little bit. Look at the bar over here. Again, this is not finished. And look what they uncovered in the floor. Not only this, which belongs in a museum, but these bottles and bricks are actually from the old gold rush era of Sacramento. They found this under the floor. This is the tiniest, most exclusive, most well-detailed bar I have ever seen in my life. And it's an explorer bar, but look at this. It's also a tiki bar. Look at this amazing freaking room over here. Not just the brickwork and the beams, all made out of concrete. I mean, full on Disney Imagineering style. I kind of think it one-ups anything I've seen in the Disney parks. Like every surface is covered with little symbols or old masks and tikis. Look at this amazing tiki fountain right here. This amazing mid-century modern bench. I believe this is an actual like explorer's chair. These are those hot rod chairs I was mentioning earlier. I only know some of the secrets so far, and I know for a fact this bottle right here is one of the rum bottles used by Johnny Depp in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And look at this, I couldn't even talk there. Inside the diving helmet, a little friend for us. This is creeping me out that there's little nooks and crannies going back. This is the most amazing space I have ever been into. Now, they're opening this to the public on their tiki nights. I think they've already sold out one of the nights. There's another night with a few tikis available. That is going to be the grand opening of Hawthorne's Hideout down here. Look at the snake. Why did it have to be snakes? But they will have this open for other special events, and they're going to have this available to rent. I believe the website is already up, hawthorneshideout.com, if I'm not mistaken. Look at this. You've got Wilson over here. There's the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Obviously, some more Indiana Jones activities. Speaking of Expedition Everest, there's a whole bunch more movie props and references hidden in this place. It is absolutely mind-blowing and amazing. And look at that. Looks like Elias Hawthorne was friends with Dr. Emmett Brown. I cannot believe we get to be in here by ourselves before this even opens. I did not plan this at all, or this would have been the entire video, trust me. But some mutual friends recommended this place to me strongly, including Bob Gurr, Tony Baxter, Pat, who'd rather not have his last name mentioned, my friend Corey. Everybody's been telling me about this and how I have to hook up with Troy. And just out of the blue, Troy let me down here, showed this off while everybody was working on it. And now Troy and Matt and the folks at the shop are letting me wander around in here and interrupt the construction and the finishing touches to get, I don't know, basically one of the first sneak previews of the most amazing, incredible space I think I've ever seen themed out. I've seen some pretty cool home tiki bars. I've never seen anything like this. Look at the barnacles here. This is incredible. See, I don't hang out in bars, because there's no explorer bars like this near me. I guess you could count Trader Sam's Grog Grotto or the Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar near me at Disneyland. Those are probably the closest thing to what I'm seeing here, but this is smaller, more intimate, and just as elaborately themed, if not more so. Because you see these incredible tiki sitting down here? They're not just static props. These guys talk.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Tika.
And I am Magma.
It's great to see everyone. It's been a long time since we've seen anyone here. Or daylight. Or clothes like that. What are you wearing, friend?
I don't know,
We've been
Roosevelt's.
down here so long, and with no one to talk to but each other. And believe me, that got old fast.
You really got old fast. Huh.
Look who's talking, termite head.
But now
Dude,
we're all together.
this
calls for a celebration.
is incredible.
Raise your glasses. Come on, raise them high. That's it. Let's congaloosh on 3. Ready? And 1, 2, 3. Congaloosh!
Dude, this whole place comes to life. Dude, I cannot close my mouth. I want to swear. I want to start screaming joyful obscenities down here. Dude, not only do Tika and Magma talk and move down here, and also wiggle their eyes, by the way, when you're alone down here, it's a little disconcerting, but the hideout is going to have special drinks, and when you order them, of course, things immediately start to change. Oh my gosh, I forget the name of this drink. I know it has something to do with lava. Look at this!
Oh, someone ordered the lava flow.
The lava flow!
Haley has awoken and she looks bad.
Oh my gosh, I need the lava flow! And that's not all. It's more
Watch
than
out.
just the lava
That old
flow.
river is rising.
What?
Find some shelter, explorers, unless you want to get wet.
Dude, how sick is this? So like I mentioned, you're gonna be able to rent this out for private parties. It's not just those 2 drinks, by the way. There's a whole bunch more buttons back there. It's like the most amazing place I've ever been. It's like the most amazing place I've ever been. I cannot go back to normal life after this. Why isn't every bar like this? Absolutely incredible. Whoa! This is the greatest freaking place I have ever been. I already started talking to Troy about doing some kind of Randomland night out here, some kind of meetup, some kind of something. Because this is the sickest freaking place I have ever been. Again, I just want to start using joyful obscenities. I feel like, you know, a lot of Disney fans probably don't think of Old Sacramento as a safe port in a storm, but they will now. I know there's a long list of creative names that have advised on this project. I'm sure a lot of that will be revealed in time, but there are actual movie props in here, like I mentioned, like real props, the real deal, and all these amazing seats are from, you know, actual historic places or vehicles. Yeah, you may be wondering what I'm doing, going around the room like this, taking a tour of seats. Well, it's because it occurred to me, since this isn't open to the public yet, nobody from the public has sat here yet. I want to say that I sat in every seat in the house before anybody else got here. Take that, Chris Provost. I sat here first. Dude, that is amazing. Look at the ski lift right there. I know that telephone is going to have a special feature. Look at the map over here. This amazing, very creepy doorway into underground Sacramento. Here's one little secret I was told. I should share at least one of them. This skeleton right here is actually from the great movie ride at Walt Disney World. So when you're in here, look around on the walls. You see something familiar? It just might be exactly what you think it is. This is the coolest place I have ever been. I say that a lot, but seriously, right now, my brain is exploding. I mean, don't you guys think this place is amazing?
Yes, oh for sure.
Sure, I guess.
This place is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Next to Allie, of course.
How dare you ask us that?
What? She's way prettier than you, come on. You know that, right?
Yes, oh for sure.
Sure, I guess.
Okay, I don't want to reveal all of the secrets down here. I can't reveal all of the secrets. There have to be secrets left for you to discover if you ever get to come here yourself. This is it, Hawthorne's Hideout. Elias Hawthorne sitting right there. Ooh, I didn't even notice the preserved snake in a jar. This isn't even finished yet. They are still working on things. They are still adding things. I'm sure it's gonna look a little bit different when it finally opens. It's a very tiny space. It is the vault within the vault. It is the greatest secret in Old Sacramento, a place, by the way, full of secrets. Do yourself a favor and go to the website. It officially opens June 21st or 22nd, whatever the sign said up there for the Tiki Days. Once it officially opens, I have a feeling it is going to be pretty permanently booked up. Because this is the freaking coolest place I've ever seen. Although I did hear there's gonna be hints of sort of like open days where you can just come, cruise in and get a ticket to come in here. But I have to imagine there's gonna be a heck of a line. This is the coolest freaking place I've ever seen. No matter how long the line is, it is worth it. I cannot wait to rent this place out. I was just telling them, okay, put me first on the list. I want this place for every birthday, ever, from now on. Freaking awesome. Now, there's a secret how to get in here, right? Because if you just open the outer door, all you see is a brick wall. And the staff let me in the door, but I just realized I have no idea how to get back out again. You think these guys can help me?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I rather doubt it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Oh, thank goodness. Whew, I figured it out. I thought I was going to be trapped down there forever, Matt. Fudge, dude. Holy fudge. Okay, I just talked to Troy, and we're going to have to do something, a special Randomland night or something down in the hideout. Because that is the coolest freaking place I've ever been. I am now going to go shirt shopping back here for some of these Roosevelts. The biggest selection I've ever seen anywhere, actually. Look at the size of the selection. Grab some sweet swag. And then hit the road. I don't want to. I want to go back down there. I want to live down there. Whew. I feel like I need a cigar or something after that. Maybe a massage. Hey. Oh, too bad they don't have a large. Look at that. Wendy Peppercorn. All right, I may have gotten myself into serious trouble. Darn you, Teddy Roosevelt. You and your stupid, sexy space-age fabrics. Ooh. Okay, there it is. The Tiki Week here. The special event right there at the Underground Vault, June 20th and 21st. That is when Hawthorne's Hideout opens up for the very first time. I think there's still tickets for day 2, so check that out. If not, look up Stage 9 online. Look up hawthorneshideout.com. I think is what they said. You gotta check this place out, Doc. It is freaking fantastic. All right, I'm gonna go pay for these, and then I'll meet you down by the river. Actually, before I go, I just want to say, Troy started this place when he was 19. He purchased the original souvenir store, just a little tiny store from, I think, an older couple that was retiring, and the store was tiny. It was just this little corner over here where the robot is, just like an itty-bitty tiny little place. And now, not only is this place massive and take up these, several historic buildings. Gee willikers! It goes from here all the way to the frickin' corner, but now he's building his own Disneyland deep underground. Dude, how sick is that? Not only is it a rad place to go, rad place to buy stuff, a rad place to hang out, but it's got one of those never give up, keep on trying, keep on dreaming stories attached to it. And that I like more than anything else. All right, now that took kind of a wild, crazy left turn there, I know. I knew I might meet up with Troy. I knew I might check out the store and hear about the downstairs secrets. I didn't know we were gonna be left alone to get a sneak preview like that. That was amazing. So sorry for any tonal whiplash going from the history of Old Sacramento into crazy Disney Underground secret bar. That's the reason the show's called Randomland. Hey, look at this. This is where Allie and I had one of our first dates. In all seriousness, though, I had absolutely no idea what was gonna happen when I woke up this morning, but dang, was that freaking amazing. Look at how high they raised Sacramento, by the way, from the river. That is wild. Okay, so next, I'm on my way up and out of the state of California, although I do gotta be back home within a week. So we are off on one wild boomerang ride. If you'd like to see more adventures farther afield than just plain old Disneyland, best way to help other than sharing and subscribing and liking and doing all those wonderful things, which are free, but if you're getting enough value from these, you wanna take it to the next level and really help me out, you can buy my book, Tales from Randomland, or one of these sweet Randomland hats at randomland.com from our merch store, or even better, join our Patreon. Gotta thank the patrons because none of this would be possible without you. Okay, so what I came down by the river to tell you, so I've been down here a bunch. Obviously, Allie only lived an hour north from here. Like I said, we had a lot of our dates down here. So we come through here every time I bring her up north, and every time I think, no, I need a whole day just for the train museum, and then another whole day for the other museum, and then another whole day for Old Sac, and then another whole day for the... For the last several years, I kept doing that with like tons of things. I'd be like, oh, well, you know what? If I could only see it for 5 minutes of the video, then I'm not gonna do it at all. That's not how the YouTubes work. That's not how the social media works. You gotta have that one little thing that's a clickle thing, and then if you have a lot of things together, like this video, you will be crushed and destroyed by the evil algorithm and have none success. Which is exactly why Randomland completely depends on viewers like you, and why I have to thank our patrons twice. I know each episode can probably be chopped up into 5 or 6 little episodes. And I'd probably get paid better and could have that fine cigar and rent out that room down there. But I like the show the way it is. And I hope you do too. And just for sticking around to the end, you're already one of my very best friends. You guys are part of the All the Way to the Very End Club. I have been your host, Justin Scarred. That's Scarred and not scared, 2 R's. This has been Old Sacramento, and we have lingered around here a lot longer than I thought we were going to. And therefore, for today, we've done our duty. Time for me to drive about 8 more hours north, and then hotel and sleep well. See you tomorrow. Dude, that is some kind of seal or sea lion or sea creature just floating on its back backwards. I thought it was dead. It's not dead. He's just floating, taking a cruise. I think there's 2 of them actually. They're just taking a cruise, laying on their backs, floating down the river. Nice.
It looks like your adventure here is coming to an end. But remember, every journey doesn't end the moment you leave. It's just the beginning of new tales.
When you come back, we'll be here waiting to hear how you've embraced the cool and the fiery sides of your journey. Don't forget, this is your story to write, and we're honored to have been a part of it.
Until then, may your travels be filled with warmth and wonder.
Go forth, adventurers. We'll be right here, patiently awaiting your return. Until then, may the winds be calm and a bit of magic ever by your side.
Safe travels, and don't forget to come back soon. There's always a place for you here with us. Farewell, explorers, for now.
Congaloosh!